Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over Galeshot, seeing what the changes were and providing it not one but two builds for it. First off, we'll be jumping right into the patch notes. If you're just interested in the builds, I do have timestamps for you to skip forward. Also, if you're interested in reading the entire patch notes, I will be putting the link in the description. The first change was just to PvE. This change was to make the power of Keen Shot go down. Keen Shot is the auto attack of Galebow, so I don't really see it making too much changes in PvE anyways, since there's plenty of skills for you to use having both Galebow and two weapons. The next change is going to be Galebow's 3, Fleeting Zephyr. This increases the distance of its leap. This is one of the things I was talking about during the beta. The short leap made it so if you use the skill, you were pretty much dead. However, now with this increased distance, it is a lot better. Now you can actually be using it for kiting. I'm very glad they changed this. Next up, we have Quarry's Peril. This makes it so the skill now grants 2 wind force in both PvP and World vs. World. This is very helpful because we can actually get into Hawkeye quicker than we would have before. The next change is on the same skill, just with a specific trait picked. This makes Pelt also give 2 wind force in PvP and World vs. World. If we go with this trait, we're getting 4 wind force very quickly, and unlocking that Hawkeye very soon. The next change is Supersonic Arrow, which increases the range by 300 to make it 1500. This is of course nice, but also confusing to me at the same time because my brain automatically thinks all of these skills are going to be the same range. So if I use Supersonic Arrow first and then try to use my Bluster, well, unless they come closer to me, I'm missing that now. That's just a me problem though. Hawkeye's power coefficient was buffed from 0.35 to 0.4 in World vs. World and PvP. It does make quite a bit of difference in damage and can really help for bursting down enemies. Plus, this is one of the multiple target skills. Moving on, we have a change to wind force. This is a pretty important change for any build of Galeshot, as this means that wind force can only be gained while in combat and while using the Cyclone Bow. If you leave the Cyclone Bow, when you have wind force, it will be removed from you, which if you're trying to use your Hawkeye, you need to stay in Galebow until you use it. You cannot be swapping in and out to save up wind force. This also means that if you decide to go with Gale Force as a trait, you're not going to be getting those wind force buffs outside of your Galebow unless you use Hawkeye for the Gale Force buff. Now for this next change, let's just group up all the squalls. Now every squall will be giving at least 1 arrow upon using. Our elite will be giving 2, but we'll get to that later. This is really good to help keep up your arrow production so you can stay in Galebow for longer. This also makes it so I have no issues in running out of arrows, and will change my trait decisions later on. In addition to the arrows, Wind Shear also now grants you Aegis and increases knockback. The Aegis makes the skill just a bit better for survivability, with the knockback increase. It'll let you stay at a distance a little bit easier to use your Galebow. The next trait is Whirlwind. Its velocity is changed to make us leap faster, and it's also now a stun break, along with the extra arrow. Making the skill a stun break was really all that it needed, but adding the velocity change made it just feel so much better and definitely makes me feel like this class is pretty fast. The next change was to Mistral, which reduced the damage it provides in PvE while also granting an arrow. One thing I did notice was different from the beta though, but wasn't mentioned in these patch notes, was that it's a dome now instead of a wall. That change is really good in World vs. World, especially because you don't have to worry about positioning as much to actually use it. I still think this isn't going to be good enough to be in most builds though. I'd rather take some extra survivability, stun breaks, or mobility, and if we're talking about Zergs, then this will most likely be projectile blocked anyways. Perfect Storm, which is our elite, is the next change, and this change is incredible. I know a lot of people were giving feedback about this, saying it was too clunky having to stand still to use the skill, and I agree. But now they've changed it. It no longer prevents movement while casting, making it just so incredible. Being able to cast this behind you without being stopped turns so many fights around. This also now gives us 2 arrows. Joy of Movement. This change is great. In addition to cleansing, immobilize, cripple, and chill, it also cleanses a damaging condition, which is basically just an extra Conde cleanse on the side when you use your squall skills. Bird of Prey is next, and this is just a PvE change, which decreases its damage. But I'm very surprised that this was nerfed, because it is a pet trait. It must have been doing really well somehow. Fetch was changed to Thrill of Catch, which grants you arrows when you disable an enemy. I haven't had any issues with keeping arrows up. If you do though, this is a good trait to pair with weapons that can stun really well like hammer or maces. The next change was the Cloudburst trait being nerfed in PvE to give less boon time. What was changed in World vs. World though, that its radius of sharing is now increased, which of course is good when you're around your allies. However, even when you're alone, this helps your boons reach your pets that are attacking enemies up close. Another trait named Shriek was nerfed in PvE to do less damage. Finally, the change that I was really hoping for, Lead the Wind. This is a trait that makes your longbow skills pierce, and now it also makes your cyclone bow skills pierce. I was really wanting this. I do wish it was in the Galeshot itself as a trait, but being combined with the same trait that does longbow is great too. Is this going to be used in every single build though? No, because 2 of the main skills can already pierce or hit multiple targets, and Hawkeye is able to do the same. That leaves just our auto attack 2 and 3, which also our 3 doesn't do that much damage. This is still good though if we're going into Zergs or wanting to clear camps more effectively. Also, with it being on the same trait as Longbow's pierce, we can pair this really well with Longbow to become the ultimate ranger. So that is the patch notes. Now what do I think about this? Well, clearly ArenaNet has listened to a lot of the feedback that was given, and it's just incredible. When it was released though, I hated it. Damage was low, it still was extremely squishy, and compared to all of the other elite specializations Ranger has to offer, it doesn't really have anything. However, I forced myself to play this, improving builds, survivability, and damage, and have begun to really enjoy it. We finally have a class that's built around a bow, and it does have enough mobility to stay at range to use this bow. Still, with it being enjoyable, is it good? Well, like I said before, compared to the other elite specializations of Ranger, it's not great. It still doesn't have as much to offer as the other elite specializations other than a much different playstyle with bows. With that being said, I definitely will be playing this in the future just because I really enjoy bows, and I'm sure if you picked Ranger you probably do too. I'd like to hear your thoughts about these changes in the comments below. Now it's time to go over the builds. The first build is going to be built for roaming, providing good enough sustained mobility and bursts. It's going to focus on positioning well to use your gale bow and using your melee weapons to stun when up close and reposition to use your bow. The second build is going to be double bow. Yes, you heard me right, double bow. We can never have too much bows as a ranger. This build will be a lot squishier though, providing piercing arrows with both longbow and gale bow and having some repositioning potential with really good bursts. For the first build, we're going to be starting off with skirmishing. Primal reflexes will be our first trait, providing us with vigor to help us when evading attacks. Our next trait is going to be strider strength, providing power increase as well as very minor might gain when evading attacks. Our third trait is going to be the most important one of this specialization, and this is going to be Vicious Quarry. This provides us with extra Fury production as well as a huge buff to Fury, giving us critical chance increase and ferocity from it. The reason we picked the specialization was for the Fury buffs and production of that and other boons when swapping weapons and evading attacks, as well as increased critical chance and damage when striking foes from the side or behind. For our second specialization, we have Wilderness Survival. Our first trait is going to be Oakheart Salve, providing us with damage reduction when we have regeneration, and it also provides us with that regeneration when being hit with bleeding, poison, or burning, which even if we're going against power builds, they tend to have at least one of those that will seep through. Our second trait is going to be Survival Instincts. This is the most important trait for this specialization, providing us with damage reduction as well as damage increase, depending on where your health is at. Finally, we have Wilderness Knowledge. This provides us with more Condi Cleanse as well as Fury when using our lightning reflexes. We chose this specialization for its survivability traits because Galeshot on its own is super squishy. We get endurance gain, damage reduction up to 15% at once, Condi removal, and minor healing. Our third specialization is of course going to be Galeshot itself. Our first trait is going to be Joy of Movement. This is really good now because not only does it provide us Condi removal from the movement and parrying conditions, but it also now removes a damaging condition, kind of acting like an extra Condi cleanse whenever we use our squalls, which we'll also have 3 of. This next trait is just going to be a personal preference. I chose Flock Together because this can provide us with minor quickness gain when using one of our pet skills, while also providing us with damage increase and health increase for our pet to use on their own without needing to pay attention to them. I originally went with Pelt, but I prefer the normal skill over this because it has Immobilize and just does more damage. If you were to pick Pelt, you'd have 2 shots. which would end up in doing more damage overall, but you're losing out on that immobilize that's just incredibly helpful for surviving. Also, if you somehow have an arrow problem, you can just go with the Thrill of Catch. This restores arrows when you disable enemies. Our third trait is going to be Cloud Burst, the ability to have your Galebow 2 reset multiple times because you use your 4 or 5 is just really good, and makes our bursts actually become a lot better while in Galebow. Plus, we can't just turn down free Swiftness, Quickness, and Fury production even though it's very minor mounts. To start off our skills, we have Soothing Breeze, which is our heal providing good super speed, Condi removal, and arrow gain. Our next skill is going to be Whirlwind to give us more super speed, a stun break, and a leap for repositioning. Protect Me is going to be the next one, giving us protection, barrier, and a stun break. You're going to be wanting to use this when you're caught up in melee combats. Next up, we have Lightning Reflexes. This provides us with even more mobility, another stun break, and a Condi cleanse. For our elite, we have of course the Perfect Storm. This can end fights if used correctly. To stun enemies, you're going to need to make sure this storm passes through them, and you're going to want to position it as far back as possible to get the most knockback out of it. Our pets are going to be the Raptor Swiftling and the Jaguar. The Raptor Swiftling counts as a feathered pet and is buffed by our traits, and the Jaguar is used for its stealth to help reposition. Our equipment is going to be Marauder Stats for that survivability increase with power stats. The Rune is going to be the Rune of the Eagle to help with its crit chance and crit damage. Sigils are Sigils of Force and Impact for increased damage because we cannot pass that up. Relic of Fireworks for the damage increase, or Relic of the Unseen Invasion for more mobility. And of course our weapons are going to be Hammer and Spear to provide good CCs, some boons on Hammer, stealth, and good damage if needed. Another thing that you are going to want to have is Golden Fried Dumplings. This food is extremely cheap on the trading post and provides really good might generation. It has no internal cooldown, so our multiple hit skills like Bluster are going to stack this up quickly. And now it's time for the commentary. This fight is a 1v1 against the Dragon Hunter. I stealth using my Jaguar to avoid being bursted and then use my Galebow 3, 2, and 4, and then into the Tornado to push. 5 while he's down from the Tornado, and a Hawkeye that gets blocked. I then get pulled by a Spear while he jumps away. I try to catch him in my Spear 5 net, and then use my Spear 3 and 2, and then swap to my Hammer where I can finish him off with my 5, 4, and 3, and then I get interrupted during my fancy finisher. This shows that even though your Galebow is going to be your main weapon, your Spear and Hammer can also do a lot of damage. In this one I just came out of a tunnel while being chased by a lot of green. This Willbender follows me and then teleports onto me. I use my stealth to make sure nobody else is around and then use my Spear 2 getting dazed. I evade his whirl and then land a good Hammer 5, 4, and 3. I swap into my Galebow using my 2, 4, and 2 again to get him down. Your evade, stealth, and mobility is quite good in this and you need to make sure you use it. In this one I start off by dismounting this other Galeshot. I leap in using my Hammer 5 and then turn and realize that there is a Firebrand. I stay back trying to figure out what they're both going to be doing. I feel like the Firebrand's not going to be joining in, so I head in on the Galeshot using my Galebow 2 and 4, missing both though. The Galeshot goes invisible, which makes me turn and notice the Firebrand incoming. The Firebrand joins in and I turn my attention to them using my Galebow 3, 5, and Hawkeye to deal some damage. I turn and use my Whirlwind to reposition and my heal to then head in with my Hammer 5, 4, and 3 to down the Firebrand. I Lightning Reflex out of the Galeshot's damage and try to Tornado. The Galeshot goes to revive the Firebrand and this is my time to go and finish using my Spear 3 flip, net, 4, and 2 to down the Galeshot where I can continue to finish them both off from range to make sure I don't get downed by their downforms. Galeshot's strong suit is definitely its ability to be able to reposition in fights with ease and only take on what you want at once. This fight starts out with me and this Antiquary. I use my Spear 3 and then head into my Galebow using its 2, 4, and 2, then trying to use my 5 but being dazed. I leap off using my Whirlwind and use my Galebow 3 to make some more distance, then my Hawkeye to do some more damage. I go invisible and so does the Thief. Another blue shows up but it doesn't worry me too much. I continue to focus the Antiquary using my Spear 3 flip and Galebow, though missing both. I use my heal with helpful super speed and then use my Galebow 4 dealing damage, then repositioning away with my Lightning Reflexes. I use my Tornado and my Galebow 5, 2, and Hawkeye being able to down the Antiquary. I use my Whirlwind to get closer, knowing my objective is to finish off the Antiquary with damage before they get revived. I leap back with my Galebow 3 and then continue to focus on the Antiquary now being revived. I use my Spear 2 flip along with all my Hammer skills trying to deal enough damage to finish off the Antiquary while also dealing damage to the Tempests. I go back into my Galebo to finish him off with my auto attack. I use my heal and then my Galebo 4 to get some more damage and leap back with my 3 while trying to deal some damage to this Tempest. There's a third, so I'm a little bit unsure, though it doesn't seem like they're going to be joining in the fight, so thank you. While the Tempests are distracted by my pet, I'm also getting my skills off cooldown. I reposition using my stealth and my whirlwind. I then swap my pets and use my Jaguar stealth as well and using my spear 3. I use my Galebo 2, 3, and 4 to try to deal damage while staying away. I also use Protect Me for that protection and barrier. I use my Spear 4 flip, dealing okay damage and then heal. I continue to try to deal some damage, but one of the Tempests go invulnerable, where I still keep attacking even though it's clearly not working. I do get some damage on the other Tempest though. I use my Tornado and it does catch one, but I need it to get both. Use my Lightning Reflexes and Galebo 3 to get back, and then land my 5, then Whirlwind away. These two Tempests have way too much sustain for how little damage I do, so I kind of decided to start leaving the fight. I use my Spear 4, leap, making some distance, and then use my Galebo 3 to evade the Tempest. I get stunned, so I stun break out using Protect Me, though putting my heal on cooldown. While waiting for my heal, I start using my hammer skills and then use my heal. I Lightning Reflexes away, where I head through the Tempest, Galebo 3, leap, and Whirlwind away. I notice there's another blue that joined in, so I pet swap, use my Jaguar stealth, swap to my spear, and get ready to use its stealth. I use it and then continue to run, using my leap after my invis has ran out so I don't get revealed, and then head back into stealth. The Tempest is now right behind me, so I spam Protect Me and heal off cooldown to make sure I live and continue to run. I try to land my Tornado, but it doesn't stun them. I'm able to stealth again and Whirlwind off, making the Tempest uninterested. Sometimes the best thing to do in fights with Galeshot is just to leave. Your damage isn't high enough to be able to break anything, but your mobility and stealth is good enough to leave. This starts off with me going in on this Evoker using my Spear 4 and 2, and then the Renegade comes in, so I use all my hammer skills on him, doing really good damage. I heal and go into my Galebo using my 3 to leap back, and then my 5 and 2 for really good damage. Leading it up with a 4 and then Lightning Reflexes back with Hawkeye. That gets evaded. I use my Hammer 2, landing it. I use my Spear 3 flip and 4, which both get dodged. I swap pets and use its skill to get quickness, then go into my stealth and catch him in a net along with my Tornado and Spear 2, which gets him down. I'm glad the Evoker let me 1v1 this Renegade. We did have a 1v1 afterwards and I did get completely demolished. I come across this Antiquary trying to take this camp. He goes invisible, so I do too. Don't want to be hit while he is invisible. So I try to go invisible again when he goes invisible, but I was revealed, so not really working. However, I go invisible again with my Jaguar and try to catch him in the net, though he goes invisible again while jumping out of it. I try to land some of my hammer skills when I can, trying to deal any damage. I then go into my Galebo, landing my Galebo 2 and my 3 to reposition. I use my Tornado, catching him in it, but he was invisible. So after he goes out, I use my Galebo 2 and then my 5 and then my Hawkeye, dealing really good damage and then finishing him off with my Galebo 2. This has such a good amount of stealth, which helps in a lot of positions, especially against thieves. Moving on to the next build, we have Double Bow. Our first specialization is going to be Marksmanship. Our first trait is going to be Hunter's Gaze. This provides us with might generation just by striking foes depending on their health percentage. Our second trait is Farsighted, helping by increasing our damage when we're far enough away. For the last trait, we have Lead the Wind. This is going to be the trait that's going to be helping the build a lot. This provides us with the ability to pierce our arrows with Longbow and our Galebow. When we're in small group content with minimal projectile reflex and blocks, we can get great value out of this. We mainly chose the specialization for Lead the Wind to get our Longbow and Galebow to pierce. However, that extra might generation, damage increase, and opening strike are all nice. For our second specialization, we have Skirmishing. Like our other build, we're going to be going with Primal Reflexes for Vigor gain when evading. Also Strider Strength for increased power and more might. And finally, Vicious Quarry, buffing our Fury and producing it. We chose this because it does have a lot of damage increases as well as Fury buffs and production. For Galeshot itself, it's going to be starting off with Joy of Movement. This trait is just so helpful now because not only does it provide you with a movement and parrying cleanses, but also now just a Conde Cleanse on the side. Also in this build, it's the only way we're going to be getting Conde Cleanse. Thankfully though, we do have 4 Squalls, so that's going to be 4 Conde Cleanses, all removing movement and parrying conditions as well. Our second trait is going to be Pelt. This lets our 4 skill have 2 ready at the same time. This paired with the final trait, Cloudburst, lets us continually refresh our 2, getting really good bursts. Also, if we're in Zergs, Pelt is going to be landing without worrying about projectile blocks. For our skills, we have Soothing Breeze, which is our heal, providing Condy removal on top of the Condy removal from our trait, and giving super speed and more arrows as well. Whirlwind is next, which provides us with a good mobility skill, giving us super speed and a leap, along with evade and a stun break. Lightning Reflexes is another mobility skill that's a stun break to help use our bows effectively. Piercing Gales is a damaging skill that inflicts vulnerability, so be sure to use this before your bursts to get the most out of vulnerability. Finally, we have the Perfect Storm. Like the other build, make sure to use this correctly. You're going to want to make sure that the storm passes through our enemies. That way they get stunned and thrown. Also, to get the most thrown distance, you're going to be placing it as far away from you as you can. For our pets, they're going to be Jaguar and the Smoke Scale, which both provide access to even more stealth, letting you reposition with ease, especially with your Unseen Invasion Relic. Our equipment is going to be Marauders to help with survivability, Rune of the Eagle to improve our crits, Sigils of Force and Impact for damage increase, and Relic of Unseen Invasion for super speed to reposition with your stealth. Our weapons are going to be Spear and Longbow. Spear helps with repositioning, and Longbow can help with your bursts from long range with your Galebow. Also, be sure to buy Golden Fried Dumplings. They're just way too good to pass up with all the multiple hit skills we have, especially since Galeshot doesn't have that much might generation. Now it's time for the double bow commentary. This fight is against the Weaver. I do my longbow burst with 4 piercing gales and 2, dealing good damage and going straight into my Galebow for its 2/5 turn, and then use my 3 for the leap back. Lightning reflexes back, and then Hawkeye paired with Galebow 2 to finish them off. Even when just using your Galebow and longbow, you have a lot of mobility and evades, allowing you to stay in your longbow longer. This fight is a 1v2, but in a camp with RI. I start out by using my longbow burst of 4 piercing gales and 2. I continue to focus the Dragon Hunter using 2, 4, and 2 of my Galebow and getting him down. Then using my 5, 4, and Hawkeye on the Berserker trying to revive his friend. I can then finish them both off with my Barrage and with the help of the RI Supervisor. I start off this fight by using my Galebow 2 and 5 dealing some damage to the Scourge, then realizing there's a Druid now. My Hawkeye is interrupted and I lightning reflexes back, then dealing damage when I can. I need to make some room, so I head out the gate using my Whirlwind and head in using my Longbow 4, lining up perfectly and getting both of them stunned, and then dealing 12,000 damage with my Longbow 2, getting the Scourge down. I use my Barrage for extra damage and then head in on the Druid using my Galebow 2, 4, and then 2. Still trying to deal damage to the Druid, I use Piercing Gales along with my Hawkeye and 5 dealing really good damage. I down the Druid with my Galebow 4 and then realize their pet is reviving the Scourge. I almost never see anyone take the skill, but it almost got the Scourge up multiple times in this. I still am able to deal enough damage though to keep both of them down. I head in on the Galeshot, doing my longbow burst, dealing so much damage that it's already over with before anything happened. This shows that sometimes Galeshot can have just really good bursts. I head in on the Galeshot using my piercing gales and longbow burst, though most of it gets evaded. I get bursted by his longbow and get knocked down. I get really low, so I whirlwind away and use my heal off cooldown. After the Galeshot goes out of his stealth, I land my longbow burst, this time doing really good damage. The core Necro comes in and the Galeshot runs away, and now a teammate of mine has arrived and deals with the Galeshot, so now I can focus on this core Necro. Using Spear 3 for the damage and the Tornado for also more damage. I use my Piercing Gale, then go into my Galebow using its 2 and then its 5, then Lightning reflexes back, continuing to deal damage to the core Necro with Hawkeye and the rest of my skills. He comes close, so I whirlwind off and use my heal. I stay at range and use my auto attack, dealing minor damage as he walks off. He seems to be heading to the camp, so I head over using my Galebow 2, then my Spear 4 to reposition and use my Longbows 4 for the stun and 2 to finish him off. The core Necro didn't have too much mobility to actually keep up with me, so I could use my bows in the field for the best situation ever. This fight was against the Dragon Hunter. I used Piercing Gales along with my Longbow 2 for some damage. I lightning reflexes out of his traps and then whirlwind to get even further. I use my heal and try to use my Tornado, but get pulled by a spear. I dodge and stealth to reposition, though being revealed. I use my tornado but don't land it. I stealth using my spear, then try to land my spear 4's flip, though it ends up missing. I go into my gale bow and use my 3 to leap back, then trying to use any of my skills to land some damage. I end up landing my gale bow 5 and Hawkeye leading up to gale bow 2, getting him low enough where I can finish him off with my longbow's burst. Even in primarily melee fights, you still can reposition just enough to get use out of both of your bows. The changes done to Galeshot were great. I'm really glad that some of the feedback that the player base gave actually got implemented. I will definitely be playing this class in the future just because I really like the playstyle of it. It's got really nice mobility with bows. It's still not really good compared to anything, but it is still good enough to be able to roam in the right hands. Let me know what you think about Galeshot in its current state. Consider giving this video a thumbs up, and if you're interested in more content like this, consider subscribing. I will be posting a video like this on Amalgam next week. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of these, and have a great day.